Australia seems to be getting taken over by radical Islam jihadism. I'm Tal, the traveling clat, your favorite white colonizer. We're going to take a look at this very, very sad clip. Apologize for my voice. I had some food poisoning, so I'm a little sick. But let's get right into this clip.
In 24 hours, we had a synagogue set alight with children inside, and we had a restaurant, an Israeli restaurant, attacked by a violent, abusive mob. And we're seeing all the repeated rhetoric of, this is not the Australia I know, we don't tolerate this, etc., etc. The Prime Minister is saying what he says, the Premier is saying what she says, but can we just call complete bullshit on this? I think enough of pretending like it matters, or like all the things they're not saying or all the things they've said before now suddenly don't matter. The culture of any nation, any business, any organization, any educational facility is set from the top down. What is accepted is determined by actions, not by weak words. So when you look at all the things that have happened in Australia since October 7, and you count how many people have actually paid a price for hate speech, for incitement to violence, and for violence, you tell me whether or not that is a deterrent to the people who acted over this 24-hour period in Melbourne. Whether or not they've looked at everything else horrific that's happened in Australia and thought, actually, it's probably not worth doing it because the people who were violent prior to me were punished. They're sitting in jail. They've paid a price. Well, most of them haven't. The vast majority haven't. So we as a nation have determined that this behaviour is fine. And people will argue and say, oh, but every society has extremists and idiots and violent people and scumbags. And of course they do. Absolutely. The Australia I have known for 41 years has always had an extremist element. Of course, there's always violent idiots. We get that. You know what the difference now is? Back then, the vast majority of Australians would not tolerate it. They would not condone it. They would come out very staunchly in support of the victims of any violent crime, and they would be adamant that the person who has acted in a violent way, the evil, was wrong. Not anymore. That's the difference here. Not that there are idiots who are going to set a synagogue on fire or barge into a restaurant in a violent, terrifying manner. It's the reaction of everyday people. You read through comments on articles about it on social media, and not that we use social media as a gauge, but I mean, what else do we use? Everyone's on it. And almost every single comment says something like, oh, so you support genocide, do you? As though that is a justification for what has occurred in Melbourne, Australia. And just on that, by the way, even if there was a genocide, it would not be a justification to try and kill other people or hurt other people thousands of kilometres away. There is no genocide being committed by Jewish people or Israel anywhere. The genocide, the attempted genocide, is being committed by terrorists. If anyone in this country thinks this is just an attack on Jews and you can put your head in the sand and you can just quietly go about your business thinking, oh, I'm safe. My kids are safe. We're not Jewish. We're fine. Have you ever eaten in a Chinese restaurant or an Italian restaurant or a Mexican restaurant? You think the people in that restaurant were all Jewish, all Israeli? This violence, this absolute extremism that purports to be about humanity but is about the complete opposite does not stop with Jews, with Israelis. They don't care. They want to cause destruction. They want to kill. They want to bring this brand of terrorism here. It's already here. We determined as a country straight after October 7 that we would tolerate this kind of garbage, and it has just gotten worse. Yeah, there might have been a break here or there, a little bit of a quiet period. But when we have people in positions of power in this country repeating complete lies about what is happening in Gaza, repeating Hamas terrorist organization propaganda, then you wonder why idiots and psychopaths determine in their stupid, simple minds that it is justified to attack Jews and Israelis here. So this isn't the Australia I know. Well, this is the Australia now that I know. This is the Australia now. This is an Australia now that condones it, that accepts it, that stays quiet because they think it's not them, or they think that they're exempt, or they think that they're safe, or they think, oh, okay, it's just not worth it. People who do this kind of thing do not care about kids in Gaza, do not care about humanity.
Absolutely.
They care about destruction. They care about fear. They don't represent one thing that is meant to make Australia what it is. Not one thing. Yet the vast majority here seem to either stay silent, bury their head in the sand, or justify it by saying, yeah, but what about what's happening in Gaza? Well, what about what's happening in Gaza? There are hostages still there, live hostages there hundreds and hundreds of days later. There are terrorists there killing their own people. So yeah, care deeply about what's happening in Gaza. But don't support the terrorists that are carrying out the atrocities. And don't attack people in Melbourne, Australia on their behalf. So the Australia that we used to say we know and love, and that doesn't exist today. And what do we have to wait for that violent mob in the restaurant? To kill? Do we have to wait for that synagogue fire to erupt, to catch onto something, for something to explode, to kill children in there, for Australians to wake up and think, oh, maybe it's gone a little bit too far? Like, what does it take? What does it take for our leaders not to read propaganda and repeat it in front of the nation? When they are in positions of power and influence, they don't even fact check. They repeat propaganda that directly leads to this in our streets, in our restaurants, in our places of prayer. So I'm done with saying this isn't the Australia I know, because this is the Australia I know.
This is I have a lot I want to say about this, because and while I've never been to Australia before, I have many Australian friends. I've lived with Australians. I have spent copious amount of times with Australians, and I always say they're my favorite white people, which is funny enough. But I've always felt, as an American who traveled around the world, Australians were the sort of Westerners I always got along with the best, because I always felt like we had more shared values as Americans and Australians than any other of the sort of Commonwealth countries or Western English-speaking nations. I always found Australians to be extremely open-minded, extremely loving, extremely warm and welcoming, and always inviting you to their country, always inviting you to be a friend. Like, they are the warmest of white people, I would say. And I hate that term, white people, but that's how I feel. And I think that warmness has now been, like in many places around the world, taken as a weakness by the Islamists, by the Arabs. I do think the thing that, if you don't know who she is, her name is Erin Molan. I'm not sure if she's a Jew. I don't think she's Jewish. I may be wrong about that. I don't know. I've seen her before on social media. She's phenomenal. She fights for Israel very frequently. And you know, I don't know what gets her, what gets somebody like her to get up in the morning and inspire to fight against this. I guess it's the impending doom that she's seeing happening in the UK and other parts of Europe, that she doesn't want it to reach Australia. The problem is Australians, similar to people from Europe and people from the UK, have been told for the last decade plus that they're shit, that their culture's shit, that they're colonizers, that they're not worth anything, that they should be embarrassed of themselves. And when the pro-Palestine agenda becomes so looped in with the anti-colonialist narrative, and while Arabs are literally the biggest colonizers to the Middle East on planet Earth, the lies and the deception, the propaganda has actually worked on these white people who don't know enough, and they don't want to get involved, and they want to be good white people that don't go against the crowd. They want to be good white people who don't piss off the mob, especially the ethnic mob that now lives and overruns some parts of their nation. So much so that when minorities are leaving, and I don't want to say exactly minorities because I don't want to get people in trouble, but minorities are leaving their home nations in the Middle East because they're being oppressed, and Australia opens the door for them. Yes, ethnic minorities from the Middle East that are non-Muslim, not Arab, and they find refuge in Australia. The Islamists and the Arabs that lived amongst them are now immigrating to Australia and moving in to live amongst those ethnic minorities and oppressing them all over again in Australia. That's actually happening in Australia. And I think Australians are maybe just oblivious to what's going on because they don't know, or do they care about this situation enough to actually say something or do something. And this is kind of the phenomenon we're seeing. I mean, maybe there'll be a shift in the UK with people like Tommy Robinson, but you don't have enough of a call of action in Australia for people to wake up. So I'll tell you this as a Middle Easterner who truly, really loves your nation and its people. You guys have been some of the warmest, friendliest, kind-hearted people I've met in my travels around the world. I genuinely get excited at the thought of being with or meeting Australians. I love Australians. You guys are some of my favorite people that I meet in my travels. You got something good. It's not perfect. Just the same way as the history of the United States of America is not perfect. There's a lot of work to be done, especially by you guys giving more of a shit about your Aboriginal people and giving them more justice and respect. 100%. No one's gonna say. Same thing with Kiwis. Like, you guys can do more for the Maori people. I think they're on a better track than Australia. But there's more to be done. There's always more work to be done. But you have a good thing going. You have a good thing going. You have a very good thing going. Don't be ashamed of your nation. Don't be ashamed of your people. And don't let it fall to the hand of the Islamists. Don't do it. Stand up for it. And I know I'm saying this, I'm preaching to the choir, and it's not gonna go anywhere. But if I can make a plea to my Australian viewers, stand up for your nation. It's worth fighting for. It's worth fighting for. As somebody who comes from an ethnic minority in the Middle East, I can assure you, they will fuck you at the end. They will fuck you over. They will destroy your country, and they will oppress you because you're not equal in their eyes. These people, they see violence. Violence is their first language. It's not all Arabs. It's not all Muslims. It's the Islamists, but you can see them. There needs to be, you have to deal with this issue. If you keep kicking the can down the road, you will lose your nation. It will happen. It'll happen faster than you realize. Australia, I love you very much, and I love your people. And I hope you take this warning as a real, true warning. I hope you listen to it. I hope you take action. Love you guys a long time. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, Klats.
If you believe in my content and want to support me, just know your help is needed. There's a bunch of great ways to support me, being PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or joining my Patreon community down below. Patreon is the best way to support my channel, and you'll get a bunch of cool perks depending on what tier you join. Another great way to support me is by buying my merchandise on thetravelingclat.com. I regularly drop new merch designs like this beautiful hat, or this amazing shirt, where you can support the channel and get something cool for yourself. I also have an amazing Discord community with people from all over the world. Thank you so much for your support.